Welcome back to the course on Introduction to Different Religions of the World. In this lecture, we will take a look at Jainism or Jain Dharma, which is one of the three ancient traditions that started in India: Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Hinduism and Buddhism, we find a lot of Hindus outside India as well, such as in Mauritius, Cambodia, Fiji, Suriname, Trinidad, and now the diaspora in North America and Europe as well, Middle East as well, some of the diaspora. Buddhists, of course, are spread across Asia in addition to India. Very less Buddhists actually in India, but there are more Buddhists in China, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, and so on. But Jainism historically did not really spread outside India until very recently, until last 2-3 decades, when because of the people of science, technology background, medical background started going out of India, especially North America and Europe. So now we find around 100 Jain temples in North America as well. But historically, Jains were only living in India for thousands of years. Uh, what is this tradition, Jainism? We know a little bit more about Hinduism and Buddhism, but perhaps very little about Jainism. So let's take a look at now. Let's follow along the two presentations that we have on Jainism. The first one is Jainism intro or introduction to Jainism itself. Let's look at slide 2. So Jainism word Jain itself, which is my last name also, as a matter of fact, because I was born in that tradition. My father practices Jainism, my mother practices Hinduism. The word Jain has been derived from the word Jina. Jina is so what is Jina now? So the followers of Jina are known as Jains. But what is Jina? Jinas are, in the slide it says, Jinas are kind of like the gods, but more than gods, Jinas are like the role models for the Jains across India or across the world now. Jinas are free from attachment and hatred. Jinas are liberated from the bonds of worldly existence, the cycle of birth and death. They have transcended that cycle of birth and rebirth and so on. Jinas have attained perfect, supreme knowledge, omniscience. They know the past, present, and future of every being in the universe. They have destroyed their own karma particles, so they are completely pure in their soul. But most importantly, they are not the creator, destroyer, or protector of the universe. In Jainism, we do not have the traditional idea of gods as if gods are God creates and destroys and protects and preserves the universe. No, that's not the case. There are no such gods or goddesses in Jainism. Jinas are simply the role models, the teachers, the preachers, those who come and establish or revitalize the Jain community during their life on this earth. So, last most important or most significant Jina that we have to study a bit more. His name was Mahavir Swami, and he was almost contemporary to the Buddha. Buddha, of course, founded Buddhism, but Mahavir did not found Jainism. Mahavir was simply the last 24th and last Tirthankar, last great teacher of this present era for this present time cycle for Jains. So Jinas can be compared with the enlightened being in Buddhism. Jinas can be compared with the Sthitapragyas, or those who are absolutely stable in their being, as Bhagavad Gita of Hinduism describes. Similarly, Jinas are also absolutely peaceful, absolutely blissful, absolutely omniscient, and so on. So they are the role models, as I keep saying, in Jainism. Now let's go to slide 4. So Jinas come and they establish the Tirtha, the congregation of monks, nuns, lay followers, including males and females. And that's why they are also known as Tirthankars or ford maker, as one of the scholars of Jainism in England has translated the word Tirthankar as ford maker. So these are the great teachers, preachers, as I said, and they come and they establish or revitalize the Jain community. So there is a tradition of 24 Tirthankar in each time cycle. Like Hinduism, Jainism, like some branches of Hindu philosophy, Jainism specifically mentions that there is nobody who has ever created this world, or nobody who will ever destroy this world. World or universe has always existed, and so this time cycle, which is infinite in Jain tradition, is divided into these cycles of infinite time cycle, right? So each cycle has 24 total Tirthankars, and so last 24th Tirthankar for our present time cycle was Mahavir, and who, as I said, was the contemporary of the Buddha, and his time period is given below, 599 to 527 BCE. That was Mahavir. The first Tirthankar of our present time cycle was Bhagwan Rishabh, and apparently from the Jain mythologies and Jain legends in Jain tradition, it is believed that Bhagwan Rishabh lived millions of years ago, and Mahavir lived almost contemporary to the Buddha. Let's go to slide 5. There are several synonyms of Jain Dharma. Jainism, of course, is the English word, but Jain Dharma is also called as Shraman Dharma, which means dharma, or dharma often is translated into religion, but dharma of renunciation. Shraman means that people that renounce their worldly pleasures and those who strive for their enlightenment based on their own efforts. Shram means effort. So, a dharma that depends on one's own efforts is called Shaman Dharma, and that is the synonym of Jain Dharma. Nirgrantha Dharma, which means religion of non attachment, renunciation or non attachment. Vratya Dharma, religion of vows or dharma of vows, in which there are several minor and major vows to renunciate, to renounce family, to always be truthful, and so on. We'll take a look at in the next slides what are those vows. And then Arhat Dharma, which means Arhat, as if you remember, Arhat word also comes in the Buddhist tradition. Arhats are the people who are enlightened based on their own self efforts. So that's the Arhat meaning of Arhat. How old is Jainism? If you look at slide 6, Jainism was uh, considered a branch of Hinduism or Buddhism until 17th, 18th century. But then came a German scholar, Professor Dr. Hermann Jacobi, and who conclusively established that Jainism is not an offshoot of Buddhism or Hinduism. It is an independent tradition that existed even before Buddhism, actually. So it's as old as Hinduism, of course, almost. That's what Dr. Hermann Jacobi established. Then slide 7, Jain literature consists, even Hindu literature has mentioned the Jain terms and Jain ideas such as Arhan is mentioned in the Rig Veda of Hindu tradition. Vatrashan monk is mentioned also in Hindu texts such as Rig Veda and Srimad Bhagavat. Keshi and Rishabh terms are mentioned also in Rig Veda and Srimad Bhagavat. Rishabdev, Ajitnath, Arishnemi, all these great teachers, preachers, jinas of Jain tradition are also mentioned in the Yajurveda of the Hindu tradition. Some Jains like to argue and some like to claim that the Indus Valley civilization shows some traces of some Jains and Jain practices in the Indus Valley civilization that existed around 5,000 years from the present time. Especially, they point out at the statues that are standing in these standing meditation postures. So that can be compared with the Kayotsarg idea of Jain tradition, in which one is supposed to meditate in the standing position. Then there is another image in the one of the seals that were found in the Indus Valley civilization was one of a yogi or a monk who is sitting and he's surrounded by animals. So some Jains have compared that with one of the Tirthankars in the Jain tradition. Yeah, that's what I say. We have in this next slide, where this yogi, this monk, this Jina is sitting and he's surrounded by animals and sitting in meditation. So that can be compared with one of the Jinas of the Jain tradition. Um Now, slide 11, what is the philosophy, core philosophy of Jainism? Jainism is a soul oriented philosophy. Soul, or the spirit, or Atma, is the most important phenomenon in the Jain tradition because that is the only vehicle that humans have that can be used to transcend the cycle of rebirth. And soul, when it's absolutely pure, one becomes a Jina. Soul has to be purified by hard austere practices, meditation, fasting, yoga, and so on. So that's the ultimate goal of all Jains, to purify the soul using all means possible, such as meditation and yoga and so on. And that's why soul is most important phenomenon in the Jain tradition. There are threefold path of liberation: the right faith in the preaching of the jinas, right knowledge to attain the knowledge of the soul, and right conduct. By practicing the minor and major vows, one can practice the right conduct that will help one to achieve the enlightenment or the liberation. Now, what is right faith? Slide 12. Right faith is the faith that Jains are supposed to have in the preaching of Jina, as I said. Now, what is that preaching of Jina? Preaching is that soul exists. There is soul is the final truth. Soul is eternal. Worldly soul is bound by karma. Karma is the cause of rebirth. Karma can be destroyed and soul can be purified. And one who destroys the karma and purifies the soul forever can attain moksha. That is the right faith summary. Now, right knowledge. Right knowledge means that world consists of living beings and non-living beings. So the living beings can be mundane beings or liberated beings. Liberated beings are the jinas. Mundane beings like some of us, most of us. Mundane beings can be mobile or immobile. Right? Mobile beings are the beings that have 2, 3, 4, or 5 senses. Immobile beings are those beings that have only one sense, such as earth, water, fire, air, and vegetables and plants. So these beings, the one sense beings, have only one sense, that is the sense of touch. So earth, water, fire, air, and vegetable, very interestingly, very significantly, thousands of years before the science discovered life in vegetables and plants and trees, Jainism had already established that plants are living beings and they have the sense of touch. Air is a living being. Air-bodied beings also have the sense of touch. Fire-bodied beings have the sense of touch. Water-bodied beings have sense of touch, and earth-bodied beings as well. What are the non-living beings in the Jain tradition? The medium of motion, dharmastikaya, is a non-living being. Medium of rest, adharmastikaya, is a non-living being. Space that provides accommodation for all the beings in the universe is a non-living being. Time or kala is also the mode of soul and non-soul, which is a non-living being. And matter, having the qualities of touch, taste, color, and smell. Pudgalastikaya, matter beings, are also non-living beings. They can never attain moksha because they're non-living beings. They do not have the soul. What is right conduct? Now comes these small vows and great vows, minor vows and major vows. Major vows are 5: ahimsa, non-violence; satya, truthfulness; asteya, non-stealing; brahmacharya, celibacy; and aparigraha, non-possession. Now, these major vows are somewhat diluted when they become minor vows for householders, for lay people like us. But ascetics, monks and nuns, practice these vows to the most highest standard. They practice non-violence to the extreme, truthfulness absolutely, non-stealing, celibacy, and non-possession. So, in essence, on slide 16, we have listed Jainism can be summarized as a triple A religion, triple A tradition. First A is for ahimsa, which means non-violence, not to hurt any being. Second A is for aparigraha, not to possess unnecessary. And third A is for anekant, to respect others' views. Every view has some angle or some perspective towards the truth. So nobody is wrong, nobody is fully right, nobody is fully wrong. Everybody has to be listened to, everybody has to be respected. Only omniscients know the full truth, complete truth, the omniscients like Mahavira. So we'll take a look at that in the next one. Then on slide 17, there is one of the most famous Jain mantras that is used by all Jains across the world too. As they enter any temple, they recite this mantra, this chant. My salutations, I bow down to all the enlightened individuals in the universe. I bow down to all the liberated souls in the universe. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam. Third one is Namo Airyanam. I bow down to all the religious heads in the universe. Namo Ojayanam, I bow down to all the religious preachers in the universe. Namo Loe Savasavanam, I bow down to all the monks and nuns in the universe. So I pay respects to all the above and seek their guidance and inspiration. That's called as the Navkar Mahamantra or Navkar Mantra in the Jain tradition. Let's stop here and we'll continue in the next one.